Hey, what's going on, guys? So we're going to be doing a deck profile for the defensive chaos that I've been playing. So a little bit different than the offensive chaos, obviously, because there's more protection here. So yeah, let me get into the deck and I'll explain some of the things as I go along, and as well as some of the cards in the side deck that you can maybe replace if you're not too much of a fan of certain cards that I'm using in the main deck. So we got one BLS, and he should be in every chaos deck. One Caius, although sometimes he can be dead, he's just realistically too good when Call of the Haunted's at 3, and you can Call of the Haunted Sangan as a chainable at any moment, but usually you can Call of the Haunted your Sangan, and then just tribute it from Caius, and then that way you still maintain field advantage, and as well as Call of the Haunted being such a good card as a chainable to get Sangan or Dimensional Alchemist. Next up, we're using 3 Chaos Sorcery, even though, it can be another one of those cards, but it can be a dead draw, but you're not too worried about the darks. It's just sometimes the lights that are kind of tough to get in the graveyard, because once you get one Chaos Sorcery in the graveyard, you can keep on just removing the Chaos Sorcery that went to the grave for the other ones. Next up, we're playing Dark Armed. He's pretty self-explanatory. I still feel like he's a great card, and when you remove from play Gores, like if you get a special summon Dark Armed, you get to blow up a whole bunch of stuff, and then one of the cards you remove is Gores, and then you can summon a Dimensional Alchemist. That way you can add a Gores back later. You've obtained so much field control because you've destroyed, the field. You have your cards on the field now. You have field presence. And then on top of that, your opponent has to deal with the Gores once again, unless you mill the Gores, which can happen. So yeah, 3-Dimensional Alchemist. So really good with Call of the Haunted because it's just another one of those cards where they activate MST and you can chain Call of the Haunted to get back a Dimensional Alchemist. And it is quite good in that aspect. So yeah, Dimensional Alchemist, also just kind of solid when you go for those Leviair plays and you get back a Dimensional Alchemist. Then you can activate Dimensional Alchemist effect because you'll have like 2 1800 attackers plus like a good effect, and then you've already established. Usually you're making Leviair with Tour Guide, so you'll have like 2 darks in the grave as well as a light that will go back to the grave. So next up, 3 Veilers, definitely pretty solid in a Chaos variant. Next up, Gores, pretty self-explanatory. Then 3 Maxi, just because, there isn't, too much windups at the moment on Dueling Network. It's kind of like died down just a bit, which I'm actually glad about, because I never was a fan of playing against windups. It was not very fun. I'm sure you guys would agree with that. But yeah, Maxi is just overall pretty solid card, and then it does have some bad matchups, so if you keep on playing against those Dark World players, you'll probably want to take out Maxi. Next up, 3 Raikou. It just helps deal with those problem cards like Macro or D-Fissures that people decide to main deck. Also, if you're playing against Dino Rabbit, he's pretty solid as well because, if whenever you have back row, your opponent will always make Logia, they won't make Dolka, so it helps out quite a bit with, just popping that one Logia and, establishing those lights and darks in the graveyard. Next up, Sangan and 3 Tour Guide, pretty self-explanatory, and Allure of Darkness. Really great because whatever you allure, you can just get it back with Dimensional Alchemist later on, so it's basically like a free draw too. And it allows you to have that dark that's already removed, so it helps out. Next up, Dark Hole, Heavy Storm, Reborn, 3 Duality. And you're thinking, wait, isn't this deck a deck that special summons a lot? I understand, but, you guys know that I love 3 Maxi, 3 Veilers, 3 Tour Guide, 3 Duality. It's kind of like my signature cards. But yeah, you still have a lot of great summons in this deck, and you can kind of play the deck slow as well. You have a Tribute for Caius, you have 3 Dimensional Alchemists, you have 3 Raikous, and obviously you have a bunch of traps. So setting up, with Duality definitely does help quite a bit. And you can set Sangan if you need to, but definitely Duality just helps because this is my thinking. If you're gonna have a special summon, you have a play, and if they interrupt your play, then they've interrupted your play. But the thing is, if you don't have a play, Duality really helps let you make that play next turn, or perhaps make the play this turn. Next up, Double Bottomless. So I've been really liking this card actually because it hurts a lot of the meta, except for Inzectors. It actually does really nothing against Inzectors, except for it does hit Centipede, which can affect the game quite a bit sometimes because then they can't OTK if you mess up their play by bottomlessing the Centipedes that they get with Dragonfly if they're playing like the OTK variant. But yeah, it does mess up Inzectors sometimes, but generally not too much because Dragonfly gets under it. But it hurts Dino Rabbits quite well, and it can hurt windups if you bottomless the Hunter. And it hurts Gladiator Beasts, and it hurts a lot of different decks, maybe like Blackwings, just because Graveyard is pretty essential to control. And then 3 Call of the Haunted, which is why it's so defensive. So I mean, the MST and you can just be like, oh, I'll chain, I'll get back Sangan, let me add a Veiler, or you know, realistic, whatever you need. I was thinking about putting one Battle Fader in here instead of a Call of the Haunted, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think of that. 2 Solemn Warnings, 2 Torrential Tributes, and a Cyber Dragon at the very end. Because I was playing Battle Fader, I wouldn't really consider Battle Fader like a monster. I kind of consider it like a hand trap anyways, so that's why it's at the bottom. But yeah, you could opt to play Battle Fader, you can opt to play Cyber Dragon, whatever your choice is. But I really like this card, just about random Cyber Dragon, because sometimes when you summon like Chaos Sorcerer, they go Warning. You summon Tour Guide, they go Warning, and then you're like, oh, it's cool, summon Cyber Dragon, and you have like really low life now because you've activated, you know, a bunch of Solemns. And then as far as the side deck, this isn't the side deck, this is more cards that you can choose to run over things. And so yeah, Breaker, pretty solid. Weisel, but keep in mind, Weisel misses the timing on pretty much all the stuff you'll be using like Call of the Haunted to. So, I mean, if you call priority on most of the stuff, you'll miss the timing. So keep that in mind. That's basically why I don't run him. Although if you're playing Piper Chaos, then, you know, he's a great card in that deck. And then playing Thunder Kings, that's also a great card. I personally just don't like him because you can't, you know, chain Call of the Haunted. But, I mean, I guess if they're trying to go off, like, they summon like a tuner and they summon another thing, then you can just go, okay, I'll activate Call of the Haunted, get back Thunder King, and then they're kind of forced to exceed or synchro, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll distribute Thunder King. So, I mean, at that point, I guess it could be kind of, you know, chainable, but, you know, I feel like you don't really need Thunder King. I mean, I know I'm playing 3 duality, which really makes Thunder King a lot better. Along with protection for Thunder King, it does help out quite a bit. But I know I'm just not too much a fan of Thunder King in this variant. Also to create, obviously you probably don't want to play 3 in the main deck, especially if you're going to play like the defensive variant. But it's more so just kind of for the side deck. Even though most of these cards aren't really side deck, they're kind of just cards that you can choose to run over certain cards. Like, maybe you don't like the Cyber Dragon, you can maybe run Tragodia instead. But the reason why Tragodia isn't in the main deck, which is another one of my favorite cards, is because Tragodia, you know, is obviously a card where you need to have lots of cards in your hand. And if you're going to set most of these cards, you won't have as many cards in your hand at the moment. But remember that you'll be netting pluses off all these cards pretty much anyways, because you won't set Call of the Haunted usually unless you have a Sangan or a Dimensional Alchemist in the graveyard and like a monster move for a Dimensional Alchemist to get back. So I mean, essentially you can run Tragodia and still keep that hand advantage, but for the, you know, time being, sometimes you just don't have the cards in your hand. But Tragodia definitely does shut down some decks. I mean, if you're playing as a Dino Rabbit and you drop that early on, it's kind of tough for them to deal with. Next up, Solemn Judgment. Even though this is supposed to be defensive, you'd think, you know, why isn't Solemn Judgment in here? Personally, I like the double bottoms. I feel like that's enough to stop the monsters. And the point of this deck really is just to overpower your opponent. That's why there's no MSTs in the main deck, because that is a card you can also side. But the reason why is because you're going to be summoning so many monsters that, you know, they just don't have answers to like everything. I mean, you have pretty much a Chaos Sorcerer and like, you know, a normal summon that's relatively decent. You know, you have Tour Guide, you have a set of Raikou, and, you know, there's Caius there, as well as basically a Tribute, so normal summon there. But yeah, basically it's just used to overpower your opponent. You basically set up, and then like it doesn't matter if they have warnings, because you just summon, and if they want a warning, it's fine, you can just finish them off anyways. But yeah, Solemn Judgment is a great card, don't get me wrong. I just don't like to play it personally because I don't like paying half my life for it. I just feel like that's just too much life. And then also Pot of Avarice, which is pretty decent because you have Raikous for mills, you have the hand traps like Veilers and Maxis to just send to the grave, and you have Tour Guide as well. So yeah, Pot of Avarice could be a card you like to play. Personally, in this variant, I don't really like it as much because, you know, you have a whole bunch of traps. So if I was playing the offensive variant, I probably would play Pot of Avarice. Next up, Creature Swap, which is pretty good. I mean, you could also maybe run Mystic Tomato and like a Spirit Reaper. Mystic Tomato plus Spirit Reaper and Creature Swap are a really great combo because you summon your Tomato, you Creature Swap it, your Mystic Tomato will resolve in your graveyard, and then you get a Spirit Reaper out. So not only have you taken control of the field by taking their monster, but you've also made them go -1 and have a Spirit Reaper there kind of for defense, essentially. But you'll have to wait one turn for it to go into defense. Next up, Lila. So it's another light target, which I was thinking about playing instead of one of the Raikous, but I really like Raikou because they can't really stop Raikou. Just because, you know, you can't warning Raikou. I mean, I guess if you flip Raikou, they can warning it, but no one will really do that. And, you know. Next up, Junk Synchron. So it allows you to go into bigger plays. I mean, if you were running Librarian, you could get that out. Your targets basically would be Effect Veiler, Maxi, and Raikou. So yeah, Dueling Synchron pretty interesting. Allows you to go for level 5s quick, but I mean, Maxi does kind of hurt that. But Maxi doesn't hurt this deck too much, really, because everything is inherent, meaning it special summons basically from itself. There's nothing to chain to it, so you can't, chain Maxi to most of. You can chain Maxi to Hall of the Haunted, but pretty much at that point you'll just be like, oh, okay, I'll stop special summoning. Because when you call the Haunted, you're pretty much getting Dimensional Alchemist or Sangan. You're not setting up to go for a huge play. I mean, I guess you can tribute for Caius, but there's really not too many big plays that you are forced to make. Because like if I summon Junk Synchron and you Maxi, I'm pretty much forced to make something, because if I don't, then I just go minus, because I summoned Junk Synchron and then got out something and did nothing with it, which you can realistically run over Junk Synchron, plus the monster gets out really easy. And as far as the extra deck, everything should be pretty familiar with you guys. Let's see if there's anything to Orient Dragon. Maybe you guys aren't playing that. You could play maybe Debris Dragon if you wanted to make like tech some card troopers, maybe a Spirit Reaper in here. You can try that. The only thing different though, I would definitely suggest running 2 Leviers. He's a great card, and whenever you can make him twice, you basically win the game. And I thought Real Archfiend, I'm not quite sure why he's in here, although it's great against Gravekeepers. You make this against Gravekeepers and they do kind of cry sometimes. But that's really about it. There's nothing too strange. Most of the time you'll be making Levier, but there are times when you make Zen mains. But yeah, so that's been the profile for the Defensive Chaos. So if there's any suggestions, I'm open to it. So let me know in the comment section below, and I'll go ahead and check it out. But yeah, if you guys don't like certain cards in here, maybe you're not a fan of tributing for Caius, you can check out some of these cards below and run them in the main deck. But thanks for watching, guys. Asian Eyes White Dragon, signing out.